you got them, wave them. If you need one, raise your hand. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Williams, and I'm honored to preside over our event today. Welcome to the city's 8th annual Veterans Day celebration. Honored to preside over this event this year because November 11th also marks the 100th anniversary of the official end of World War I. Veterans Day originated as Armistice Day, and it celebrates a historic milestone of the many soldiers who gave their lives to serve on behalf of this great country. I hope that you all have had a chance to visit the many vendors who are here, and they are here specifically to share some information with us, our vets family, and military personnel. If you did not have time to visit with them, please take time during this celebration to do so. I know they will appreciate it. We have a tremendous program outlined for you today that begins with the formal presentation by Nation's Colors by the Winter Park Police Department, followed by a national anthem sung by our quartet from the First Baptist Church of Winter Park, our pledge of allegiance and invocation. Please stand and remain standing until the recession of the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose rough stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let us all recite our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Let us pray. Dear God, we thank and praise you for this day. Thank and praise you for you being with us, for you promised you wouldn't leave us off ourselves. We thank you for this celebration that we come to celebrate our nation's heroes, come to celebrate the freedoms that you have allotted us. And God, as we gather under your watchful eye under the banner of freedom, we pray that you continue to lead and guide and direct us, that we may be the nation that you called to be your voice in the time such as these. Use us mightily, God, to be your hands and your eyes and your mouthpiece in this world today, that men and women may know that there is a God who oversees and super rules. We give you the honor, we give you the praise for our service men and women. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Hot time, hold. Hot time, right. Hold, hold.
You may be seated at this time. Usually I'm pretty quiet about the weather, but it's hot up there today. Amen. We have a beautiful day. cloudy, no rain. I remember the drill sergeant had me do that in basic training, give the weather report. When the cloud in the sky said it was gonna rain. Make you do a lot of push-ups when you do that. Service comes in different forms, whether it's service to our God, our country, our city. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Vice Mayor Pete Weldon, who was elected to the City Commission in 2016. Prior to becoming a City Commissioner, Vice Mayor Weldon served on multiple city boards, including code enforcement, tree preservation, and the planning and zoning boards. His civic service travels well beyond Winter Park's borders, where he also serves on the board of directors of the Orlando Science Center and the Heart of Florida United Way Agency review panels. As a graduate of the University of Miami and Duke University, Vice Mayor Weldon held a long career with Johnson & Johnson, led a startup business in Winter Park, served as an investment advisor, and retired in 2013. In his retirement, he has continued his calling and service to our beautiful city. I present and introduce Vice Mayor Pete Weldon.
Good morning. Veterans Day is an opportunity for us to focus on what binds us together. I observe that division is a goal of both media and political actors, both of whom have a vested interest in creating division. The media reinforces messaging that feeds its audience what it wants to hear to maintain advertising revenues. The political parties gin up controversy to motivate financial contributions and votes. The extremes presented to us daily, actually now, every time we look at our phones, are not reality. I offer that the political culture wars we hear so much about are fabricated to serve interests incompatible with personal freedom and attendant personal responsibility. So what does this have to do with Veterans Day? Well, Veterans Day celebrates the service of all U.S. military veterans. Federal law requires everyone who enlists or re-enlists in the armed forces of the United States to take enlistment oath that includes the following. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. The Constitution, which includes the Bill of Rights, that means supported and defended, creates the balance of power in the structure of our government designed to protect our freedoms from overreach in a majority vote, legislative overreach, and from despotic leadership. The purpose of our Constitution is to protect and defend personal liberty, diminishing processes that concentrate power while releasing the energy of free will to create and serve each other without being told what to do or how to think. Our structure as a republic of states, along with the counterbalancing impact of our three-faceted federal government, are intended to ensure our personal liberty. This is the blessing of our Constitution. The price of free will, of liberty, is responsibility and service. Our veterans have made a personal commitment to responsibility and service to make certain we can pursue our lives in peace and freedom. I decided to involve myself in local government some 12 years ago and came to understand the benefits I realized from those serving in the military, public safety, and government. As most people, I had taken their protection for granted as I pursued my work and raised my family. I take the same oath to support and defend our Constitution as an elected official, assuring our veterans' support and defense of our Constitution are realized in the practice of government. Free people are the font from which both peace and prosperity flow. The civil structures voluntarily created under the protection of our Constitution have provided the greatest peace and prosperity we've ever known. The benefits of freedom are not philosophical. The benefits are observable in history and in personal experience. And so, on behalf of our entire City Commission and on behalf of the City of Winter Park and the people of Winter Park, our thanks to all veterans and those currently serving for supporting and defending our Constitution. Thank you. Our guest speaker this morning is Harvey Massey. I am pleased to have known Harvey for 25 years. Harvey is an industry leader with over 55 years of experience in the service business in public and privately owned companies. He was recently named an honoree in the Orlando Business Journal's 2018 Veterans of Influence Awards for serving in the United States Army and also for his many distinguished achievements. His company, Massey Services, Inc., has grown to the 5th largest pest management company in the nation and the largest privately held family company in the industry. Harvey leads his company with the mission and guiding philosophy, which includes, we believe in being a contributing member to our community and our industry. Harvey is an acknowledged leader in his industry. He has received recognition by countless organizations and is a recipient of numerous awards for his community involvement. I actually wish he was in the HVAC business right at this moment. Harvey walks the walk. He is currently serving or has served on the boards of more than 15 nonprofit organizations, including Rollins College, Stetson University, Dr. Phillips, and the Edith Bush Charitable Foundation. Harvey and Carol Massey have been philanthropists for many years. Their philanthropic interests, especially in education, arts and culture, human and health services, and community service, is evidenced by their generous gifts to many worthy organizations. And most importantly, in my eyes, Harvey and Carol Massey have been married for 55 years. They have 3 children, 10 grandchildren, and they live in Winter Park, Florida. Please join me in welcoming Harvey Massey.
Good morning. What a beautiful day. It's in moments like this that I refer to this as what a beautiful Winter Park day. People say, well, this way all over Florida. I said, no, it's not. In Winter Park, we're quite special. And I want to thank the Almighty for the great weather we've got right now. I want to thank Pete Weldon, for the nice comments. Pete, you wrote that, you said that precisely, I think just like they printed it. Isn't that right, ladies? He didn't miss a lick. Okay. I also want to thank Clarissa, the city of Winter Park, for the invitation to be with you today. It is great to be here, and particularly, it's great to be paying tribute to the brave men and women who have sacrificed so much in serving our country. In preparing my comments for today, especially since we're celebrating Veterans Day, I thought the most obvious and important way to start was really to acknowledge and to offer, again and repeatedly, our heartfelt thanks for the service and acknowledging the sincere thanks and appreciation of many people all over the world, acknowledging an appreciation of our veterans and their families for the many years they have served our great country. Approximately 5 years ago, someone at a presentation, which I will explain momentarily, got my attention overall for the need for a great, strong, quality military. It was a speech that was made by a 5-star general. I take that back, it was a 3-star general on the opening ceremonies of Lake Nona's Veterans Memorial. And I quote what he said. In the 238 years of our nation's history, we have been engaged in conflicts, 35, covering all 155 years of our history. He politely said this another way. He said that our country has been involved in wars and conflicts for 65%, 2/3 of its history. What the general did make quite clear in that presentation, he says always, and I repeat always, without fail, our troops have been there They've been well trained and well prepared to accomplish their missions. He further stated that categorically, in all of our nation's wars, there is an undisputed fact that our military has performed superbly and has done everything asked of them, and they've done it with courage, and they've done it with honor. Our debt to them, as well as each of you, is an obligation and a solemn duty, a duty which every American should embrace. Many years ago, President Harry Truman summarized it quite well. He says, our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. America will never forget their sacrifices. President Truman made this statement on April 16, 1945, to the American Congress. To the day, it was the day after the burial of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. You would ask, probably if you knew my background, where did this patriotism really come from? I made the lead contribution, my wife, my family, and I, at Lake Nona on the Veterans Memorial, which I'll address in just a moment. But I want to give you and share with you a little bit about my history, where it makes a little more sense. My maternal grandparents, who I grew up with, were both immigrants to our country. Both were born in Italy. My grandmother came to the country as an infant in 1897. My grandfather came, he was born in 1887, and he came to the country in 1900 at the age of 13. He had a brother here. My grandparents had 3 children. They had 1 son, and they had 2 daughters. Obviously, one of those ladies turned out to be my mother. Their only son served in World War II. Toward the end of the war, he happened to wind up serving in Italy. My grandfather was absolutely convinced that his son serving our country was the right and the honorable thing to do. My uncle ultimately returned home after the war, took over the family business. Thank heavens he lived to a ripe age of 91. We buried him 12 years ago in January of 2006, and which was 3 days from his birthday. My grandfather, on the other hand, was a very unique man. I admired him immensely. My grandfather spoke 5 languages. He didn't have much of a formal education, but he was fluent in 5 languages. He taught us at a very young age that we lived in the most opportunistic, the greatest nation the world has ever known. He taught us to be true patriots as we grew up. He taught us to be respectful of our country, and particularly respectful to the people in it. He went on to say that you also must respect the people in uniform that serve for the freedom and the opportunity that we're blessed with. Personally, I can speak personally about my own background militarily. I happened to spend 3 years in the United States Army Security Agency. I had a colonel that took a personal interest in me. And I learned a lot over that period of time, not only about attitude and work, but life and its responsibilities and the discipline that's required to live it and live it right, in the right way. I guess you might say my grandfather gave me something at the time I never realized I was getting. But I guess I could probably say this in the same words as the great singer Lee Greenwood famously sings. I too am proud to be an American. I'm proud not only to be an American, but all that Americanism encompasses. Over the years, my family and I have been blessed and have taken advantage of many opportunities that have been provided us. And to add a little seasoning to that comment, I want to share with you, totally unexpected, but about 3 years ago, I was approved and asked to become a member of the Horatio Alger Association of Distinguished Americans. On a Thursday in 2016, we were invited to the Supreme Court, where Justice Clarence Thomas placed a gold medal around my neck. My dearest friends and my family was there. The following night in Constitution Hall, a black tie function, I was called out on stage to make comments. The audience had seen a video. And I said, to begin with, you're probably wondering how a guy like me, from a small country town in Louisiana, with immigrants, his grandparents, that have influenced me, how in the world would you wind up here in Constitution Hall making comments in a speech to some of America's distinguished Americans? I said, the answer is quite simple. Only in America. One of the highest compliments that's ever been paid to me personally came from Lieutenant General Jay Garner in a letter he sent me that referred to me as a true patriot. I found that to be extremely high praise of a gentleman of his background, his service, and stature. General Garner was who President Bush turned Iraq over to when they had taken it. He made that statement in relationship to the work that he and I did for the Veterans Memorial at Lake Norman. And speaking of the memorial at Lake Norman, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. The memorial honors the more than 1,100 men and women of Central Florida who, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, gave their last measure of devotion in service to their country. All of us in this audience know, as I previously stated, we are truly blessed to be living in the greatest nation the world has ever known. I'll give you an opinion as to why. The world looks to us because of our prosperity, because of our productivity, and our innovativeness. And above all, we're recognized as the greatest economic and military structure, again, that the world has ever known. The reason lies in three words which best describes why, how, and for what reason. The reason simply can be described how we feel about liberty, how we feel about freedom, and how we feel about opportunity. I repeat, freedom, liberty, and opportunity. The quest for having that and retaining that absolutely brings Americans to their feet to support and fight it. If you ever have the pleasure of a come down corporate office, when you walk in the front doors, you'll see on a very high wall a painting. The painting is the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima, World War II. And right underneath it, I added something to it. It says, freedom isn't free. In closing, Winston Churchill said a lot of things during his time, but I rate one of his best in this statement. He says, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. With that in mind, with freedom, liberty, and opportunity in mind, I once again want to thank all of the veterans in this audience around the state of Florida and throughout our country. For the time, for the commitment, and the sacrifices you and they have made in serving our country. I want to thank you all for being here today, and may God continue to bless you and your families. I would hope that God would continue to bless all of the young men and women serving our armed forces in foreign lands, and may God continue to bless the great United States of America. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Harvey. We're honored to have you with us, and we are definitely humbled for your service to our country and our community. To continue our program and remind us of our blessings, I'd like to ask our talented quartet from First Baptist Church in Winter Park to join us. All four singers, Amber Forster, Haley Pugh, Justin Horn, and Nick Colarossi are musicians entrants from First Baptist of Winter Park. Nick plays the bass, guitar, Justin plays acoustic guitar, and sings on the praise team and in the choir. And both young ladies also sing in the choir and on the praise team. Nick and Haley are both graduates of Rollins College with music degrees. Justin is a student at UCF, and Amber recently graduated from UCF, is now attending Rollins College. This occasion marks the first time these four have sung together as a quartet. We are pleased to welcome them, young people, for the musical debut together as they sing the battle hymn of the Republic.
Oh Christ was born across the sea, with the glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free.
We can do a little bit better than that, can't we? A little bit better than that. See many people stepping up, and some of us are getting ready to step off the scene. So we thank you for our lovely quartet. We look forward to hearing from you in the future. And y'all start cutting CDs now. Don't forget where you come from. All right. At this time, I'd like to ask Vice Mayor Weldon to come back to the podium as he will come and introduce our official salute to the patrons.
America, this land built on the prayers and dreams of our pioneers, patriots who possessed deep inspiration and an unfaltering vision for a nation built on the concept of individual freedom. The spirit of freedom is woven deeply into the fabric of American history. Now is the time to acknowledge a dream that only prayer could bring to life. Now is the time to give thanks for this nation, unique in all of history. Now is the time to celebrate our heritage of liberty. Let us begin by paying tribute to our patriots, the men and women who have served in the armed forces of the United States. The most powerful military ever assembled came from the common and the committed citizens of America who accomplished their task with uncommon valor and dedication. Our debt to them can never be repaid, for there is no price to be paid to be placed on liberty. It is altogether fitting to show our appreciation to those in our community who unselfishly contributed to the securing of the very liberties that allow a gathering like this to occur. Would all of our veterans of active military service please rise as we present the song from your branch of the armed forces. Please, veterans. Thank you.
just a little bit taller. I want to thank you to our amazing BFW band, Post 2093. We're grateful for your annual performance and making sure that you're always here to share this moving tribute with us every year. And before I offer the benediction, I'd like to remind everyone of the vendors that are here, that you may see the valuable information that they have specifically designed and are offering for our veterans today. A special treat today for all you golfers. We also have a special Veterans Golf Play Day at the Winter Park Golf Course. Where veterans can play 9 holes for free today, beginning at 12:30. Y'all better hurry up. 12:30 p.m. Free golf for all the veterans. Don't forget to grab some coffee and donuts at the Salvation Army Canteen. And please also take a moment to reflect by our live oak tree that was planted several years ago in honor of all of us, all of you, as the city official Veterans Memorial Oak for your service to our country. Let us bow our heads and pray. Father, we thank you as we reflect and remember and give tribute to those who served this great country. You planted us here, and you asked us to serve here. And God, we've done the best we could with the gifts and graces that you blessed us with. Now, God, we call on you to continue to lead us, continue to guide us. Bless our city officials, bless our nation's leaders, bless our men and women who serve for the great cause of freedom. And we do understand that freedom is not free. Continue to smile down on us as we seek to bless your holy name. In your divine name we pray. Amen. Amen.